Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this exciting fireside chat on the topic building anti-fragile and agile organizations for sustainable growth. The workplace has undergone an unprecedented transformation in the last few years. As tech leaders prepare for what's next, they need to be strategic in determining which technology best supports their employees by keeping them secure and productive. In this session today, we will discuss what's next for work and how do you future-proof your business by leaning into tech solutions that deliver flexibility and agility. And with great pleasure, I would now like to invite and introduce our speakers for this session. First up, we have Sumit Puri, Managing Director at Synergy Digital Solutions, an internationally and cross-culturally accomplished C-level executive with 25 plus years of experience in management consultancy and IT across geographies in healthcare and insurance sector. Sumit is a seasoned digital leader with expertise in generating innovative solutions to business problems by aligning technology to business goals. He has an exceptional record in translating strategic roadmaps into tangible deliverables and driving exponential revenue growth by digital transformation and capitalizing on existing technology opportunities. And our second speaker for today is Balaji Uppili, Regional CIO, ASEAN, so South Korea and ANZ GE Healthcare. Balaji has around 18 years of experience in leading digital transformation for organizations within healthcare, finance, and telecommunications verticals. Balaji uses his digital leadership, lean principles, and collaborative approach to deliver business growth outcomes. In his current role as regional CIO, he leads the digital transformation for GE Healthcare in ASEAN, Korea, and ANZ regions, accounting for more than 850 million in revenue. He manages the digital priorities to align to regional growth strategies and improve end user experience with innovation in technology and automation. His focus areas to make the enterprise strategy work for target users and use lean principles to align processes, people, and systems. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sumit and Balaji. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having us. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. And I'm sure our audience will learn a lot from the insights you share today. So without any further delay, let's start this exciting conversation. So I'll request both my panelists to answer this question because it's important. It covers the theme overall. So the VUCA related aspects brought about by the pandemic have challenged organizations to become resilient or even anti-fragile to survive external stresses. According to you, what are the attributes that are relevant for an organization to become anti-fragile? And Sumit, I'd like to start with you first on this.
Sure. So very clearly, the pandemic has obviously, accelerated this change and complete digital disruption. But I must say, this has started quite some time back. The technology disruption has been in vogue for the last almost 30 years or so. I mean, if you consider the, let's say Fortune 100 clients also between 1907 and 2007, there were only two companies that remained in that chart, in those 100 years, which was Nokia and GE. And now we also have problems with Nokia. We also see issues with GE. This space has been further accelerated today. But, as I said, GE was able to manage because it withstood a lot of, change at a much rapid pace. Yeah, the need to basically become a lot more agile, the need to become a lot more, flexible in the way they operate. And only then when we look at the employee motivation, I mean, ultimately it's an employee first policy, and then if employees are motivated, you will have the customers also happy and satisfied. So to be able to manage some of those equations, catering to customer demand, at the same time, keeping employees happy, that's a very, very important challenge for organizations. The ones who will do it will be the organization that will basically laugh their way all into the bank. The ones which won't will face some challenges and might not be heard of in a few years.
Yes, I think that's a great point to start with, Sumit. Yes, digital transformation was there always. Things were changing, disruptions were happening. But yes, the past 2 years, so to say, have accelerated that entire transformation for organizations. And the focus on tech, along with the focus on people, as you said, is going to make organizations successful. Balaji, I'd like to come to you with the same question. What, according to you, are attributes that are relevant for organizations? How can they become anti-fragile in this situation?
Yep, thanks, Yasmin. I think great points from Sumit, right? So just to add to that, in the last 2 years, what we have seen is that this is one of the common questions we keep asking ourselves every day. How do we make ourselves resilient? How do we make ourselves flexible in those organizations, right? So when you talk about it as a CIO, what we are thinking is that there are 3 points. One, the digital transformation, as you've been talking about it, has been there for a long time. So somewhere you need to trust that ideas and the initiatives that have come across years of efforts, you need to start protecting your core. So if you don't protect your core, then anything which you add will not sustain. So we've been able to do that in the last 5 years as within GE. Just to give an example, when we had 100 ERPs trying to support businesses across the world, now we have one ERP for the entire application. Similarly, we have one CRM. So that gives a lot of certainty to the employees. They know exactly what they need to do, how they can do their day-to-day transaction without any ambiguity, and so on. Right. So that is one. So protecting your core is very important. Second is about investing in people. Because if you want to be resilient, the resilience doesn't come from external factors. The resilience comes from your internal confidence from the employees. So how do we create a safe environment for them to go and pick up those new technologies, play around with it, learn, and fail faster? Right? When it need not be a year long, when we don't have the liberty of running a transformation initiative for say 5 years and say, okay, we are end of it. By the time the new technology comes in, so another transformation starts. So for you to get to be resilient, you need your employees to be hands-on on those technologies and have a view what works, what doesn't work within your organization context, and creating or providing that safety net for them to play around is very critical. So that is the second thing which we focus on in the organization. And third one is around outcomes, right? So many a times we get into technology just because it's new, but we forget the outcomes for what are we trying to do, which customer we are going to trying to solve the problem for, and is it benefiting my employees who's going to go and talk to the customers or so on. So it has to be outcome driven in terms of what your initiatives, how do you prioritize so that you reduce the burnout in the employees and give them some clarity or purpose on how they can go faster. So those are the 3 points from my end.
Very interesting points, Balaji. I also totally agree with you. I think focus on the protecting the core first, very, very important. Then focus on the people you're investing in. These are the people who will take you through the journey, make you resilient or make you anti-fragile going forward. And thirdly, outcomes. How do you look at the outcomes? How are you measuring them in these times? So great points. If organizations want to continue, these disruptions are going to continue. We need to keep building, we need to keep developing ourselves, transforming ourselves to become more resilient, more agile, more anti-fragile going forward. So great points to start with there. So now, since we're talking about becoming more anti-fragile, according to you, how can businesses become an architect for anti-fragility and attain real agility and also deliver systems of optimum quality? All of this put together at the same time. Balaji, would you like to take this up first?
Sure. Thanks, Yasmin. So, I'll just take it along with that protecting your core. So just because we had single or a simplified enterprise strategy, so what it helped us is to provide transparency to our users. One, so just giving an example, if I'm a product manager sitting in say US, and we worry about how is my CT or an MR machine or an ultrasound performing in various hospitals, I can get it by one report sitting, doesn't have to go through a long churn. So which means I know exactly what my users want, where my products are failing. I can prioritize my product decisions based on data. So the core is giving us to the platform to leverage data and build insights out of data. The second aspect out of this we have observed is that in the last 2 years, when Sumit may add onto it because he's coming from healthcare background, is the customers are also changing. Earlier, it was the change management within the organization was an internal battle which we are fighting. But if customer is demanding, it becomes that they are partners or in the digital transformation. So they are demanding that they want to engage with us in various digital channels, like this forum where the event is happening virtually, right? So our customers want to have to know or engage with G in various channels, which is where we are investing heavily on omni-channel strategy, where customer can reach us through any channel of their choice, and we are able to cater to the needs seamlessly. So those are the two things I see the way we are managing this change.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, as you said, firstly putting things together on a single platform and then providing omni-channel opportunities for customers to reach out to you. That experience of creating that experience for your customers vis-a-vis technology, obviously, playing a big role for you at GE as well. Sumit, what are your thoughts? How can we become architects? How can organizations become architects for anti-fragility, agility?
I think they have to learn to use data well. We have so much data all across, but I don't think we really gather the insights very well. If you measure, you can manage it. That's the key objective, right? And somewhere down the line, you also have to be a little bit more flexible, because I mean, you will need to have a more slightly longer term thinking. I mean, in my previous organization, we actually kind of went into rolling budgets during the peak of the pandemic, because we realized you're not going to get those monthly budgets met every month. You have challenges. It's changing every day. So there is a need to be very much more, in some ways circumspect. At the same time, use data well. Get the insights, get the understanding. Saying, if I'm a listening organization, if I'm listening to my customers, and at the same time learning, and the employees are encouraged to also learn and fail if you have to, but fail fast, and then relearn and get that right. That is the key. So to me, that's where we have to kind of get to. So be able to use data well, and execute. I think those are the key objectives.
Yes, and I think we've been having a lot of conversations with other leaders, and data is becoming such a huge thing right now. And if you can understand data better, that will not only help you in making the right decisions, but actually preparing for a future that is still uncertain. But at least data can help you make some sense out of what it can be like. So I think that's very, very important, as you rightly said. Any thoughts on data, and how Balaji, if you'd like to add something upon this whole aspect of how having a right data strategy, how do we prepare and become more resilient, because it kind of gives you insights a bit into the future, right?
Yep. So the way we think about data within GE is we are creating one data platform. So it's an integrated cloud-enabled platform where you are trying to generate or create trust in the data. So most of the time, if I just take along what Sumit said, right? So we have lots and lots of data coming through various channels, various systems, and various interactions. But the problem is we are not able to churn any insights from that, because one, you don't have trust in the data, because you have it in the raw format, but no one is able to say that this is the right thing. You need to start making decisions on top of it. So for you to get that, you need an integrated ecosystem where you are able to massage, curate the data, and provide that metrics on quality of data. Which will give you the confidence, okay, I can safely make my decisions on these data sets, or the insights coming from this data sets, right? So again, the way we have been starting in this journey has been showing us a phenomenal success. Our data platforms is now integrated with missions or the healthcare equipments on the customer side. As an engineer, if I don't have to go to the customer site to go and do a preventive maintenance, or check what could potentially go wrong in the next 5 days or so, where instead rather I can do a remote testing and remote maintenance, thereby preventing any failures in the mission. So that integrated ecosystem plays a very vital role. And similarly for, say, a salesperson, if he's going to a customer's place, we are providing recommendations and on-the-go insights in his mobile app, which is going to make him feel comfortable and confident in terms of positioning the right offering or right expectations with the customer. So that is the second way we are bringing it along in the omni-channel journey as well. So in that sense, we are in the early phase, but we see early success as well in this journey.
Yeah, I think that's again a great example. Thanks for sharing that, Balaji. Sumit, coming to you again, we spoke about how and digital transformation has always been there, but the focus on it has been much more in the past 2 years. So how do you think an organizations future-proof their businesses by relying upon tech solutions that deliver flexibility and agility both?
Right. So I think it's a great question. I would just say the biggest thing here is to understand your context well. And I'm just talking about every sector. There are different nuances which we have to be cognizant and aware of. So when I look at, let's say, for example, healthcare and insurance, again, there are many of these are parts of the same ecosystem for the customer. And we look at very large businesses that are present in multiple sectors. We don't really have a 360-degree view of the customer. Now, I'm just giving an example here. For example, when we talk about healthcare in particular, now the claim costs are going up because people are falling ill. We're having problems and issues across, across the spectrum. But the insurance companies are still not fully able to invest in wellness. And I'm just talking about this, saying, how do we really start changing the paradigm? Because you need to have a much closer collaboration between the insurance companies and healthcare organizations to create that sweet spot, which would be much more beneficial there. So I think the organizations of today need to be open. When we talk about agility, they have to understand they're part of an ecosystem. They have to basically build these partnerships, create something which basically becomes much beyond, beyond their own, let's say, boundaries, and reach out from a customer-centric perspective to other organizations or other players who could add value. So I think, to me, that it's very important to understand where we could probably collaborate, where we could explore. When I look at basically even aspects like healthcare is basically now going to the homes. So could we have hospitals? We did that in Max, for example. We had home care done as part of the hospital. We were saying we want to look at the customer journey, make this much more easier for them to interact with us. So through the journey, when you basically go through a surgery, I have physiotherapists, let's say a knee surgery, I have physiotherapists going to your homes to get complete recovery path done. Now, some of these elements in terms of the customer experience have to be understood. You have to then kind of create those partnerships, create that ecosystem, which will deliver value to the customer. I think that is the future.
Yes, so what I hear from you is about first understanding your customer really well is going to be important. And that is when you bring tech, which kind of works along and which is, which goes along with the kind of solutions you're trying to create for your customers. So I think that's going to be a great way of how anti-fragile you can become, because you know what your customers want already. So you cannot really go wrong there. So great point, Sumit. Balaji, what are your thoughts on that? Future-proofing organizations, and making them anti-fragile with tech.
Yep. No, I agree with Sumit on that, right? So collaborating with customers or the actual users, when both internal as well as external customers, is very important. So if I take the healthcare example, when some of the things which we are doing is around how do we make a third party or vendor neutral environments where as GE, as an equipment manufacturer, as a startup who can be building healthcare algorithms, as the a hospital where they are actually using those algorithms to detect a scan or use it for patient treatment or do preventive measures, we do have built that kind of ecosystem, and that's where we are investing a lot in what is called as the Edison platforms, right? So that is one starting point where we have to work not within our boundaries, but an end-to-end solution where all personas can work together and come up with a solution which is going to be long-lasting in value, right? So second thing is about the value generation. So if I'm going to build, gone are the days where we had a dedicated IT team where they are going to constantly churning out applications behind the scenes, and all of a sudden you will see a good app, some of it will work, some of it will not work. But rather now it is about value generation at the place where the value can be generated. So we are talking about self-service applications or which are low-code or zero-code solutions, which are going to be in the hands of the domain expert. So if I know my finance user is going to generate a pricing algorithm, so I can give them a machine learning platform which is not requiring any coding knowledge, but rather put in your design or draw your outcomes, and then you're able to generate machine learning algorithms, right? So in that sense, it gives you a value. Okay, is it even going to work? Is the algorithm going to give me any success? If it's successful, then go back and scale it to the level which we want. So that is where we are reversing the innovation at the hands of the user and generating value from that endpoint. So those are the two things I would say, Yasmin, that we should be addressing in the long run.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of ties in with what Sumit said about, again, understanding the customer, be it the internal customer, your own employees, be it the external customer. Again, it's about understanding the kind of tech that works for them, and then bringing that on board in order to become more future-proof and ready to face disruptions, because these will keep going and coming, these will keep changing. But if you know what the real needs of your people are, I think that is where the solution will start working. So thank you for sharing that. Next, we are going to talk about a little bit about the future now, though the future is still uncertain. But as we plan for the future of work, what should be the key priority areas for businesses where they can invest in and focus to accelerate their agility quotient? And Sumit, I'd like to hear from you first.
Sure. Thanks, Yasmin. So I think, to me, the biggest element here is to to understand, the kind of aspects that probably will make sure technology gets adopted. We know technology is changing because people have now got used to the fact that, this would be a way of life. Remote work, multiple such, new kind of models have emerged. So how do you ensure whatever you're creating, is adopted by the customer, adopted by the employees, is very crucial. So we have to basically make it more simple, make it more intuitive, make it much more, I would say, agile in terms of iterative, where we can make some changes if required to suit the context. So I think the future proofing and the way we basically should craft the future is about of measuring adoption, measuring what's working, what is not working. Looking at ways we can improve. Have a continuous feedback mechanism. Get that feedback into your system and work on it, improve it. Become more employee centric, become more customer centric. I'll give an example. We look at, for example, artificial intelligence. Now, this is a great technology, outstanding. I mean, what it could do, the power of AI. We've got the series answering us in every single aspect. Now we look at the AI augmenting, doctors. We have to position it in that way when we talk about diagnosis and stuff. Because today, if you position AI as the be all and end all of solutions, you will have doctors reluctant to embrace it, reluctant to adopt it. We have to change the paradigm, change that narrative, and make them realize this is going to help us, help the doctors. One person can't really solve world hunger. You need a much more bigger ecosystem. So use technology, use it well, partner with your customers, make it much more easy to adopt for the customers and for employees. That's what would really help us in the future.
Yeah, and that's a very, very, very good thought, Sumit. I think we speak to so many leaders who say that the challenge with technology is not getting technology on board. The challenge is in, people helping people adopt them. Implementation is also fine, but adoption is where the main challenge lies, and be it for your customers or be it for your internal employees. So as you rightly said, bring technology on board, but ensure that adoption is taken care of. And that'll happen only once you understand what your customers want. So going back to the whole continuous feedback mechanism, going back to understanding your people first and then bringing technology accordingly. I think that's a great point for organizations as they move into the future. Balaji, what will your thoughts be on this?
I think my response is also in the similar lines, right? So, as you know, when you talk about adoption, when adoption is a very, very important aspect for us, because any investments we are making, if it is not adopted, it is an aging inventory on your books. So what we are actively doing is looking at the feedbacks using lean methodology. So we do Gembas, we do VSMs, we do Kaizen events, we do take that into the daily management practices to see how we can continuously improve our existing ecosystem so that any new addition is going to be adding value than being disrupting the core. Okay, so that is one aspect from my end. Second is the experience, right? So the lean talks about end users, what they feel, how their feedback is, what is the challenge in adopting a system, right? So when you sit with them and understand what are the challenges, then you can automatically improve the experience from the day-to-day hurdles to make it as part of your habit to use a system, right? We are able to do that with Amazons and Lazada of the world, and so it can be with your ERPs and CRM. What is stopping that, right? So we need to spend efforts with actual users, understanding their pain points, and look at it from a total experience. Who's the end user, who's setting up the system, who's managing it, and how the flow is. So we call it as total experience on which we can improve the adoption. And that is the 2 points I would say from managing your existing stack. But in terms of future, the future cannot happen with what you know in the past. It's going to be completely different, whether it is blockchain, AI, or and even the metaverse, right? When with healthcare, we can get into that ecosystem, which is going to be useful for all the radiologists or maybe for the doctors to practice or maybe demonstrate to a wider audience on what those protocols or how to go about treating a patient, right? So for that, you need to create that safety net. And you should not shy away from technology. The more you shy away, then it's going to be harder for you to get into this future technology. And that is where you need to build the teams to go and explore, go and work with it and fail. And no matter, nothing wrong in failing, but the learning that you get it is going to make you more stronger to go next iteration.
Yeah. Great. Again, I think that's how it is. It's about, again, the whole continuous feedback mechanism of allowing people to experiment, take feedback on that. If they fail, they fail fast, they learn fast, but you come back with the best solutions that you can actually adopt in your organization. So thanks for sharing that, Balaji. So that was just while concluding this session, I'd like to ask one final question to both our speakers. And when organizations who are on the path to becoming more resilient and anti-fragile, just two things I'd like to hear from you is one thing that they should stop doing and one thing that they should start doing. So Sumit, if you could answer that first.
Okay, one thing that they should start doing is create an innovation team. I think to experiment and innovate, I think it's very important to have that culture of innovation. That's one. What they should stop doing is punishing mistakes. I think they really need to start becoming a little bit more friendlier to employees, and friendlier to the to the ecosystem, because that to me again will help us in creating those amazing innovations that we see. Because unless you fail, you won't innovate. You have to start looking at that.
And they are tied together, right? If you encourage innovation, you will encourage people to fail and learn from it also. So great 2 point. Start investing in more innovation and stop punishing people for mistakes. I think. Thanks, Sumit. Balaji, what are your thoughts on that? One thing to start, one thing to stop.
I think for me to start is to continue that ownership. Let the team take the ownership, let the team explore and come back with innovative solutions, right? So creating that ownership is going to be important for as a manager or as many managed teams. So let the teams come back with the right solution. At the same time, stop is don't take technologies for the sake of the jazziness in it, right? When that is where you stick to your core and see the business outcome, what you're delivering with that incremental innovation, and focus on that value, without which you will end up into a complex mesh of multiple systems, and you don't know where, you do not have a clarity on what is the roles and responsibility of each systems, right? So for me to start is that ownership on innovation, and stop is on the value, not systems which are not adding values to your outcomes.
Great. Thanks, Balaji. Again, a very important point on ownership and innovation, and then adding a system to how do you value your outcomes. Very important again. So on that note, thank you so much. I think organizations here are all aiming to become anti-fragile and resilient going forward. Agility is the core at all this transformation that companies are going through. Technology is an enabler. It's here to empower. So organizations who can understand their customers, internal and external customers better, and bring technology accordingly on board will become anti-fragile. We'll have people on, invest in the right kind of people, focus on the core of your organization. And I think then there is no looking back for becoming more anti-fragile. So on that note, Balaji, Sumit, thank you so much for your time. It was a great learning session for me as well. And I hope our audiences did learn a lot too.
Thank you so much, Yasmin.
Thank you. It's very engaging, very exciting. So on that note, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this session. Do stay with us for many more such exciting sessions, and also participate in our contests to win some exciting prizes. Thank you, and see you all in another session. Thanks.